there's a lot of ways songs are split anyway, right? Even past the artist-producer, which might upset some people. But producer 40 and then 60.
You can debate about that stuff all day. If the music is not out, you get nothing.
Yeah.
You get
LMK Productions.
Hello fellow bedroom producers, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time seeing me, I make videos that give tips to producers and independent artists. I make tutorial videos on Logic Pro 10. I break down my beat making and songwriting process, and also I do product reviews. So if any of that interests you, I need you to do me a really quick favor. Go down, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so that way you'll be notified whenever I make a new video like this. Got that out of the way? Bet. Let's get into the video. So I originally filmed this interview about a month ago, and I got really busy with other projects that I was working on, and I finally got a chance to edit that video. So that's why I'm wearing different clothes, and I even have a slightly different background, but it's all good. Buto and I had a really good conversation that covered various topics on how producers can connect with other artists, and most importantly, what artists are actually looking for when they are looking for a producer to work with. So now, let's hop right into it. Hello fellow bedroom producers, welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing the series where I'm interviewing artists and just asking them questions that other producers oftentimes ask in the producer community, whether we're talking about selling beats, whether we're talking about connecting with artists, talking even more specifically about what artists are actually looking for whenever they're either looking for a producer to work with or even just buying beats. We're going to talk about all of that and more. So now, I brought over a very special guest. We got Buto.
Yo.
Buto was actually the first artist who I started working with when I really started taking music production seriously. Way back when we were both in high school, we were both really getting into music at around the same time, and then we're like, hey, let's go make some music together.
Yeah.
And yes, so we started working together on a weekly basis. We put out our first song together, Difference, way back in, 2015?
Yeah.
Man,
Wow.
and yeah, and we put out a lot of music together, a lot of music separately. And yeah, so he was one of the first people I thought of in terms of wanting to get on the show because, I mean, he's an artist, producer, songwriter, everything. So his perspective is super valuable just because he does a lot of things within music. Like I said, not only is he an artist, but also he's a producer as well. So we can get the perspective of someone who can make his own beats, but also occasionally gets them from other producers and works with other producers.
Yeah.
So first of all, Buto, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm happy to be here, man.
Amen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Tell us about yourself. Who is Buto?
Buto is an enigma. No, I'm playing. Buto, sheesh. I haven't been asked this question in so long, so I don't know why this is totally getting me. I'm a man. The first thing that came to my mind, man, was, earnestly in my pursuits, man, a man of God. I want to be a man of God, man. That's the first thing that came to my mind, which is so odd because I've done some crazy things. But
we all have. I mean, no one perfect. We all been doing crazy things.
Right. A songwriter, a lover of, music, like I'm sure all of you guys are, and someone that just wants to simply create the greatest that he can create or that I can create. I love being able to be in a studio by myself with others, and when like those speakers turn on and you just made something incredible, and hearing that output back into you, what you just input into the mic or into the, the keys or through the guitar, So yeah, definitely an all-around lover of music, a man of God, and I want to evoke change and inspiration through my music.
We need that in the world. Like with all the negativity in this world right now, whether it's with the pandemic, whether it's with just senseless violence, whether it's with countries handling COVID even worse than this country did. Yeah, we need that positive energy. It's positive, inspirational energy. That not only just positive stuff, but man, stuff that points us back to the Creator, Christ. Yeah. We need artists like you in this world for sure.
Thank you, man. Yeah, man.
Describe your sound in 5 words.
My sound. Oh, my sound has been okay. My sound is an enigma. We're gonna use that word.
My sound is an enigma.
That's actually lit. Actually, wait, is that it?
My sound is an enigma.
I didn't even try to do that. Oh, see, because what I thought, for some reason, I thought you were saying like energetic. Blah blah blah.
See, you
blah,
could have taken that route. You
Dude,
didn't.
That's it. That's my answer. My sound is an enigma. That's lit. That's it. Yeah. But if I was to use another way, I'd definitely say energetic. loving, love-filled, passionate. Now that my music has matured, a bit sexual, and hungry, man. I think that's the other thing that you can hear from my music. Hunger.
Yeah, I definitely hear that out of your music because I mean there are lots of people who make music. No, there are lots of people who make just sound, honestly. But you make actual music. Whether I'm working with you or whether it's stuff that I hear that you made on your own, I can hear the passion and hunger in your music for sure. Just because, like, I can hear the artistry in it. When I listen to your music, I can hear the long nights that you spend creating the stuff and crafting different things, and making your music sound dynamic, more than just a really simple loop or something that anyone else can create. Like when I listen to your music, I can definitely hear it's Buto and not just Lil Rapper 365. I don't know.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, man, it's my heart, and when I create, I really find I try and fit, because speaking of like producers, I usually write what I'm feeling, right? That's the classic saying. But then like sometimes I'll write how I want to feel.
Yeah.
Or I'll write about a feeling that I felt. I think that's probably actually the number one.
Right.
People usually write about what they felt, not actually how they're currently feeling. But I prefer to write about how I will feel. You know, I like to write about future instances and sometimes make up stories in my mind. And the stories sometimes, as a writer, I want to get better at like really making the stories intriguing. I've met a couple of because I'm not necessarily a rapper, but I like to use it as a tool. But I've met some really fire rappers that can really tell a great story, and I love listening to their records.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is your definition of a music producer?
See, now I want to look up the definition of producer, because if I think of a producer as someone that produces things, that brings things, that creates things, but a music creator and a music producer are different. I see, okay, so here's what I would say the difference between a music producer is and a music creator, because the word creator wants to come to my mind, but a creator is a bit more like that person also. I don't see a music creator. This is really tough. This is really tough. A music producer, and I'm very literal and I like strong and very clear definitions.
Yeah.
I see a music producer as someone that is usually behind the desk, that is creating sounds, melodic, on-tempo sounds that can be played back through somewhat of a sound output, like the radio or your headphones, something like that. Because there's a lot of people that create music, but like they're just people that are in their rooms and they like to play on the guitar,
right,
or write songs. I would call a bunch of people are music creators, but not everybody's a music producer.
100%.
Yeah. It's
an interesting conversation to have because I don't want to necessarily get into the producer versus beat maker debate, just because at the end of the day, both are important. One isn't better than the other. Both can make dope music.
Yeah.
But just more so, just with like the online space that we're in right now, the word producers is thrown around to literally anyone, whether you are someone who makes beats and literally just makes beats, whether you're someone who is more of like the DJ Khaled type of producer where, see, DJ Khaled, he doesn't necessarily make all the beats for his music,
And then, and not to cut you off, that's where I was gonna go. Sorry, because I hadn't really. Okay, so one thing that I actually think is missing. So, okay, when we created Spuddies, right?
Right.
You were my producer in essence. I think we both had credits in the producing.
Yeah.
But you were my producer in that time because every track, when I think of a producer, okay, I have a much better explanation now. The Quincy Jones type.
Exactly.
That saw Michael and said, I know what we could do with you. Like Quincy got writers and Quincy would write some of the records and give them to Michael but he might even set them up to higher keys so Michael could sing them better. He got the different instrumentalists and the session guitarists and so on and so forth to produce Michael.
Exactly.
And he basically created and stamped the sound that is Michael Jackson. And that's what I think a music producer does. Yeah, so you're definitely,
It's exactly that. Just because, just going back a little bit off what I was going into is that a lot of people who call themselves producers nowadays, all they want to do is sell beats.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because I sell beats. I find it very important to get compensated for my work. But at the same time, I feel like there's somewhat of a lost art in production now, just because when you're looking at other people's shows and with other people's guests, they have a younger producer ask questions. A lot of the questions are based off of, how do I sell more beats? How do I get more artists to listen to my beats? How do I get my beats in front of more artists with the goal of purchasing them? Which, once again, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Selling beats online is a very good business, and it's an amazing way to get compensated for your work. But at the same time, if that's the only goal in mind, then you're losing somewhat of the art of really producing for an artist.
Yeah.
So whenever I sell a beat to an artist, when I get that notification on my phone that's from BeatStars that someone bought a beat, it's a really good feeling. But I don't feel the same connection with it the same way I feel connected to Buto's music that we worked on together, or an artist like Britney, or an artist like, even though I don't produce all of his music, Nonpareil, because I engineer most of his music. I feel a different connection with that type of music just because I'm there. I'm there with the artist. We're creating that sound. Whether I am making the beats or whether I'm just hitting record, and when I'm playing with effects to give their vocals to sound really unique. I feel more connected with that music just because I'm there with the artist in the studio. I definitely feel like I do like the beats that I'm making on my own. I haven't always felt that way, but I've almost always loved the music that I've made with other artists, just because there's a different connection you feel when you're actually producing the artist hands-on versus only selling beats.
Yeah, and also, so I'm in a place right now where I'm producing. So my next album's done and my EP's pretty much done. No, my EP is definitely done, and my next album's pretty much done. And so now I'm working on, I have the time to be in the stew, and so what I'm working on, because what I think is missing, so now what I'm hearing, so I've heard this way too many times. First off, my song Blessing, it didn't get taken, but Future used it, remember?
Yeah, I remember,
Future used that, the sample.
Yep.
And I wasn't mad about it at all. That is the name of the online beat making game. Someone else, especially if you're buying from the big producers out there, even the smaller ones, someone else has probably bought that track, and they're gonna use it and they're gonna put it out. And praise God that everyone has unique frames of mind and how they create. But sometimes I love the ability to find and listen to beats through BeatStars and download a fire beat. But sometimes as an artist, I feel like hijacked or sabotaged in a way, and it's no one's fault. But it makes me feel as if sometimes my music is not my own. So on this next project, I'm telling myself no samples, no, and I usually do that with my albums, but with this album, I put all the songs that I'd been holding on to, and I put it in this album. But this next album, I'm really gonna hone in. I'm gonna use no samples and no other people's beats, and I'm really gonna dive into producing myself. And really getting that, because that's also how you get a signature sound. And the crazy thing about, and again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but when we're talking in terms of artistry, let's talk about this. This is interesting. This is interesting. This just popped in my mind. But you have a bunch of artists right now. We praise God. I think BeatStars was around, but we weren't really on it like that when we first started.
No, here's the thing. So Beat Leasing was around for a while. BeatStars itself, they're fairly new in comparison to Airbit, which was originally called My Flash Store, and then even before that, it was called SoundClick.
Okay.
So SoundClick, I believe there was another site before that was older than that, but SoundClick was like the BeatStars of the 2000s, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So Beat Leasing has been around for
a while.
Maybe close to 20, 25-ish years by now. I think maybe closer to 20, but Beat Leasing has been around for a while. Just now with BeatStars and even with Airbit, it's just so much more convenient now with how those platforms are set up.
Okay. Yeah, because so what I'm really happy is that we weren't really into it, especially with Spuddies, right?
Right.
Blessing was a beat that I had found through YouTube, and I'm never gonna be upset about that. I have heard other songs with that beat, but Blessing was what it was because of what I did on it. But let's talk about and we don't have to go too deep into it, but I think that something psychological could be happening with a lot of artists, because it's rare nowadays when you hear an artist that doesn't sound like somebody else.
100%.
But I think that could be almost, have you heard of psychological driving?
I don't think so, actually.
But silently what could be happening is you see all these beats, Lil Baby type beat, Drake type beat, Gunna type beat, Eminem type beat. And if you keep seeing that, you might like the artist, but it also might encourage you to sound like or do something like that artist on that type of beat.
Interesting.
But I think that's something like, that's hard to gauge if that's happening, but I do think that, with certain beats that do sound so similar to like the artists that these people love or that other producers are producing, like, hey, this is like a this person type beat. It can sometimes, like I haven't heard, like who's the last producer? I'm trying to think of the last producer that I've heard that was like, that defined a sound.
I can name a couple just because like I've just really listened to like other producers' music, but I can see where you're going with that.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, and defined a sound, because I can't think of the first person I think of that really has his own production sound is Timbaland. Like when I hear a Timbaland beat, I'm like, when I hear a beat and it sounds like a Timbaland beat, I'm like, oh, that's Timbaland.
Yeah.
Because the way he does his drums. Or Pharrell like beat.
Yeah.
Pharrell is that second person in that category that's like, yeah, it sounds like Pharrell produced this. And there are certain producers that do that. I want to know I'm trying to think like who popped off with this like hard 808 sound. I mean, 808s have been growing. Oh, okay, 40, right?
40's one of them.
He's a producer, because of what he did with Drake.
Yeah.
And that underwater sound. So I will say that for some reason Weezy Outta Here is coming to my mind. Though I don't think he really coined a sound, because now coining is like who has the hardest tag.
Yeah.
Weezy Outta Here. When I hear that joint, bro, I'm like, oh shoot. But his 808s, I feel like he must create them, or the way he EQs them or compresses them, they really hit hard but well, not just like OD.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with all of his music, so I can't like comment on that, but I definitely know where you're going with that. So, and this is interesting because I wanted to get into this type of topic later with how you felt about leasing beats, but we'll get into specifically that later. But yeah, in terms of mainstream artists, or mainstream producers rather, I definitely see where you're going with that, because when I turn on Rap Caviar, for example, on Spotify, and if I'm like shuffling through majority of the songs, just to be honest, I don't hear a lot of people with unique sounds.
Yeah.
I will here and there. Yeah, for the most part, a lot of people, they're rapping over similar beats. They have a similar melodic style. Not doing the melody stuff specifically, but some of them, they just flow really similarly to each other.
Yeah.
Even with the beats, with a lot of them use, a lot of them sound really similar, which is like, I mean, I do like trap a lot. I make trap beats, of course. If you listen to the vast majority of the beats on my own website, vast majority of it is trap beats. Yeah. I love heavy hitting bass, but a lot of the beats on the radio right now and on Rap Caviar, like a lot of them, they sound really similar. That's just another part of the environment that we're in right now, just because I feel like a lot of people, this is kind of going on a little bit of a tangent, but like I think some producers are even just playing it too safe, because we know what works. We know that people are really gonna love that hard hitting 808, that hard kick, a really cool melody. We know the structure that people are going to like, but I feel like if we did lock into the studio more with artists and try to craft our own sound, like we could make something incredible.
Yeah, man. And I think music is somewhat of yes, it's personal, but when you know what comes out of you naturally. There's certain sounds that come out of me very naturally. When producing, EDM type sounds come out of me naturally. I think that's why Spuddies was so... But I was also going for that sound because I love that sound. But the chords that I usually make are a bit more on the definitely minor jazzy side, which allows me, I envied the songs like, what was Young Thug and Travis.
I know what song you're talking about.
Blum, blum. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Like those, because like that, those types of sounds, oddly enough, on the piano, those chords and sounds don't come out of me very naturally. Those kind of brighter, more major type sounds.
Yeah.
We would definitely see more of a more originality and uniqueness if people started producing, not just themselves, but producing with someone else.
Yes.
A real producer that could, help elevate their sound.
No, 100%, because like when I'm working with an artist like you, like when we did Spuddies, that album had a really specific sound because we worked together on it, and we were like, okay, we want to go for a future bass inspired sound, because we were both getting into that style of music at the time.
Yeah.
When I'm working with Brittany Lee, the type of beats that I make when I'm working with her in the studio, I don't make those type of beats. I usually don't make those type of beats on my own if I'm just naturally creating. Like when I'm in the studio with her, we create stuff that I definitely wouldn't be able to make on my own. I know that she's said to me herself that she couldn't make this stuff on her own. I think it's really cool that artists can just go on YouTube right now and find a beat to use. That's super cool because it's super convenient. Not everywhere in the world has just other artists or producers, dope artists and producers who are just available right there.
Yeah.
We're blessed in the Northern Virginia area that we're at right now because there actually are a lot of really dope artists over here.
Yeah.
But in some other places in the world, whether it's other places in America, whether it's places overseas, there aren't no people like us who are just like readily available, who are just like not only make music but are dope at it.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that we can connect with people all around the world, whether it's on YouTube, BeatStars, Instagram, and then be able to work with people remotely. That's a huge blessing. That's what's kept my business afloat over this pandemic. But there's definitely like a magic that's lost when that's the only thing that you do and you don't ever lock in the studio with someone else, whether it's another artist or whether it's another producer.
Yeah.
So since we kind of started going on this topic, how do you as an artist and as a producer yourself, how do you feel about leasing beats? And the reason why I ask too is because I have my own feelings about them. Of course, I'm a producer who leases beats. I know that you're an artist, you make your own beats, but then also you lease beats from other producers as well. So this is why I really value your opinion on it, just because you've seen all the sides of the field basically.
Yeah.
There's some artists who only get free beats off of YouTube.
Yeah.
There's some people who only do exclusives.
Yeah.
But then you've made your own, you've leased your own beats, you've gotten exclusives from other producers, I'm going to assume as well.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about leasing beats?
I feel like it's a great place to start. I was actually advised, leasing is 100%, I think, the way to go. I would not advise any artists now to do what I did and take beats off of YouTube and use them. I had my reasoning at the time, but you know what they're selling them for now, $30 for the MP3 or Wave or both, or all the different bundles and stuff that they have. It's worth it. And I also believe in, so what I do like doing is I like it when the producers have the downloaded beats where you can just download for free.
Yeah.
Because what I do is I want to see the commitment. We're living in a very no commitment world right now. You know what I mean?
100%.
And I mean, and it's helpful, but I think in the long run it might cause some problems, of course. But yeah, we're living in this no commitment world where I'm like, I'll download the beat. Can I write on it? Like, how hot of a song can I make on it? And that'll also, so with me as an artist, I'll be like, if the song is hot enough, I'll buy the exclusives. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if it's just good and I know I still would use it someday, I might buy the Wave, just replace the Wave under it and call it a day. I bought the beat. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I'm free from any problems with it. But so for me, I think leasing, is 100% fine. Because here's one thing that I feel like could happen. A lot of times when buying exclusive rights for a beat, there's usually the negotiate the price thing on BeatStars. And I think that's cool, but I find it a bit more fair, maybe, possibly, if there was a price already on there where people could just buy it, because a lot of times they would like to know who's gonna be buying, who wants to buy the exclusive rights, who buys the exclusive rights. And if it was just me from VA, it's like, hey, I just love this beat, I made a great record with it and I want it to be mine, they might charge me $500. But if they know it's Future, they might charge him $5,000, because they know he got it like that. Because I personally don't think, I don't know how much, I do think the producer would care if someone buys his exclusive rights to the beat. I think long term it would be more fiscally wise for them to let people just keep buying leases, if you want to make more money that way. But I do think in terms of fairness, it could get a bit dodgy there, but besides that, I think it's totally fine. Definitely lease rather than take it off YouTube.
I agree with that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to unpack there. First of all, I actually want to go in on the exclusive part. So first of all, of course, even though I was really focusing on how I value working in person with artists, it definitely is super convenient to lease beats, and I do encourage artists to lease them as well. Just to go on the reason for why producers, they make an offer thing rather than just straight buy out the exclusive. From the producer's perspective, if you're someone who's leasing a beat for $20, let's say you lease that $20 beat, let's think of some really easy math. Let's say they leased that $20 beat 5 times, made $100 off of it. And then let's say on their website they were selling exclusives for $100, which is a really low number that, depending on who you are, maybe you shouldn't be selling for that low anyways. But just for the sake of simple math, let's say it was just available right there to sell for $100 exclusively. So you just sold it 5 times, you leased it out 5 times, and then some random artist, they're a SoundCloud rapper, they don't take music super seriously, but they still decide to buy it exclusively for some reason. They just bought that beat off our website, you can't sell it anymore, and then they put it out, and you're still entitled to royalties, of course, even when they lease it or when they buy it exclusively. But even then, on like the royalty end, if it's like a little random SoundCloud rapper you never heard of, and you just bought your exclusives to a beat that you were making way more leasing money off of, you as the producer, you might have just lost out on a lot of money, because if 5 artists bought that beat, there's gonna be a lot of other artists who would have wanted to buy that beat.
Yeah.
So that's why, for me personally, I won't speak for other producers, but for me, all my beats on my website are available to lease. If an artist wants it exclusively, they have to ask to get it exclusively before anyone else buys it. Because especially because of the way that I personally have set up my website, where you get the unlimited lease license, that can cause a lot of questions later down the line too. So for me personally, if I'm making a beat exclusively for an artist, either I'm making it and sending it and not uploading it to my website at all, or they need to ask for the exclusive before anyone else buys it. Because one, if someone else buys it, technically is not exclusive, you're just going to be the last person to buy it. And then 2, if it is a beat that does happen to be selling multiple times, I'm probably not going to want to let it go for a really low price. If it's been really selling a lot, if someone really wants it exclusively, they're going to have to pay a lot of money for it. And that's not just a flat fee that I can just put on the website. I'll have to actually calculate and just see, okay, this beat sold X amount of times, this artist wants to buy this beat for this much, so how am I going to make more money? Finances are the importance right here. What's going to make me more money long term? By selling it with this one big flat out fee, or if I just continue to lease
Let it run,
Yeah. So that's why, and I would encourage this too, that's why you'll see producers have to make an offer on their thing rather than just being able to flat out buy the exclusive.
Yeah.
I also want to get into how you feel about it musically, but also in terms of business too. If you are an artist who's just starting out, always recommend getting leases. Why? Because the beautiful thing about leasing beats is that it's a very affordable way to make sure that you get high quality beats versus just ripping them off of YouTube. You'll get high quality beats that sound better than just the encoding that you get just from downloading straight from YouTube.
Yeah.
You help support the producers who are helping you make hits essentially, rather than just stealing their music and then trying to finesse them. And when you're just starting out as an artist, you can put that money that you're saving for buying beats to things that are really going to help you propel a lot further, whether it's music videos, photo shoots, running ad campaigns that will get more listeners to your music. And as a producer, you should be able to educate artists on this as well. As an artist, if you're spending 20, 30, 50 bucks per beat on your album versus spending 500 to multiple thousands of dollars depending on who you're working with, when you're just starting out, it's so much more of a smarter idea to use that money on other things that are going to make you propel a lot further.
Exactly.
Having dope beats, that's definitely a big part of getting fans, of course, because you need dope music before anything else. Otherwise, anything else you can do is just pointless.
Yeah.
You know? But at the same time, you can have a dope beat and then maybe not afford a really dope video, and then your song just doesn't do as well. You know? So when I'm talking to artists, especially when they're just starting out, or specifically when they're just starting out, I definitely recommend, that they lease the beat over than getting it exclusively. Unless they have the budget. If they got the budget, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah.
I got bills.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Lease it first. Almost always. Well, here's an interesting point. If it is Drake trying to get your beat, you might let Drake get that exclusive because it's Drake, and it's like, he wants my beat. You know what I mean? So there's a lot, but definitely for younger, starting, not necessarily younger in age, but younger in their career, definitely start off leasing beats, because here's a simple fact of the matter: your music's probably the music's probably not gonna go too far anyway.
And that's where everyone clicked out the video.
No, it's just not in the beginning.
You just got canceled.
Dude, I'm just speaking from experience, that is, nobody's coming to haunt me from my SoundCloud days, And I even messaged, everybody knows Mantra. He's like the biggest selling producer, and that's the dude that produced Blessing. I messaged him. I tried to talk logistics, because that song really took off, and he kind of didn't even. He was like, because he had so many other records. I'm sure he's had a bunch of records that have taken off.
Definitely.
But I ended up paying for the beat after, and that's another interesting thing too. The logistics behind that. Paying for the beat after it's released, does it still? I do think it still is fair. But yeah, because I've definitely done that before. I either forgotten to, replace the beat or buy the beat, and I end up releasing it, and I'm like, oh, I didn't buy this beat. And I'll go back and buy it. But definitely because, the music, it's going to take some time. So, and here's the thing, it might pop off really fast. But to start off, definitely lease. And if you see like a song that is really popping off, then you go and I would say buy the unlimited or the track out to the exclusives.
No, that's 100% fair, because the way I think about it is, like, I think about music with a business mind as well. When you think about music, whether you are a producer or when you're an artist, you need to think about it in two ways. Am I making dope art that's I'm proud of and that other listeners are going to enjoy? That's one really important thing. The other thing, if you want to, specifically for people who want to do this as a career and make money off of it, you need to have that business mindset at the same time. You need both. You need to be creative as well as have an entrepreneurial mindset. A good example was if Drake wanted to buy the exclusive. So even if Drake wanted to buy a beat from me exclusively for $200, even though I know for a fact he can afford to buy a beat for way more than that, I'm 100% going to let him do that. Why? Because that song, even if it's not a single, is going to stream enough to where I'll make even more money on the royalties. Yeah. So with an artist like him, absolutely, I will give him the exclusive.
Might even give it to him for free.
I would actually. If Drake hit me up right now and picked out a random beat on my website and said, "Yo, give this to me, I'm gonna make it a hit." Yeah. Say less. Yeah. Go ahead. In fact, you want the whole catalog?
As long as I'm getting these royalties.
Yes. So in that type of situation, even when it was not an artist specifically like Drake, I don't know. Let's say an artist like Futuristic. Okay, Futuristic. He's an artist out of Arizona. He's not a mainstream artist, right? But he's an independent artist who has a big size audience, right? So he's not on like that Drake level, of course, but he's not a local artist, So, but the artist like Futuristic, for example, if an artist like him were to hit me up and wanted production, whether I was going to get paid up front for it or whether I'm getting stuff on the back end, I wouldn't mind being more flexible with giving an exclusive to an artist like that, just because I know that even if I sell a beat to him for at a lesser rate than what I would normally sell it as, I know long term, depending on how we split up the royalties, I know long term I'll make that money back. Yeah. So that's why when a smaller artist, if they ask me to give them an exclusive beat, especially if they want it for free or whatever, I'll be hesitant because first of all, that's just disrespectful, just to ask someone to do something for free and you don't know them like that. And then second of all, this equipment, the software I use to make my beats, that stuff is not free. The electricity that this stuff burns up, that's not free.
The air I breathe, it's not free.
So I don't want to make everything about money because it's not. But at the same time, I want to do this as a career. So when I'm leasing beats or if someone's buying them exclusively, I need to make sure that I'm being fairly compensated to make sure I can continue doing this stuff. Because if I start running out of money, I'll be working customer service my entire life. Yeah, I don't even remember what the original point was, but
we're just talking about if someone were to buy the beat. Yeah. And also keep in mind keeping business mindset for younger artists. I would really suggest thinking long term. Think long term. Even if you don't believe in yourself, which you definitely should, because if you don't believe in yourself, this is not an area of work you should be in.
Facts.
Or the industry you should be in. But, even if you're, questioning, always think long term. So with leasing, exclusive, think long term, and that's what someone was advising me. Now I'm in a place in my career where I think I'm at a bit more of a liberty to think long term, and I could possibly start buying it when I use people's beats, the exclusive rights, because here, I'll tell you guys a story. He told me that an artist, I didn't know the artist, so I'm sure the story is true, but I'm sure this could happen, so either way, if it's true or not. But he said that there was an artist on TikTok that had a song blow up on TikTok, and it became the #1 song on TikTok, and it was a beat that he had leased. But what had happened was a big music head came up on the backside and bought the exclusive rights to the beat. And so ended up getting all of whatever, I guess, his streams or getting in on whatever the cut was for his beat for that song. That's scary to me. Yeah. Because I believe I have music that, could at any time pop off. It's like that type of commercial music. Yeah. With humility, I say that. So, yeah, those are the things you want to think about when thinking long term and thinking about protecting your art. That's a whole nother conversation. How much do you want to protect your investments? Right. So
no, that's perfect actually, because another thing that I really value as a producer, artist, entrepreneur is ownership, and other artists are starting to value that as well, which is why it almost seems like I'm bouncing back and forth. But this is why I am more open to doing exclusives as long as it makes sense. Just because ownership is super valuable, but that's also why exclusives cost more than leasing. because for leasing, you're paying for the rights to use the beat and to use it commercially and to make money off of it. When you buy it exclusively, you're paying for ownership. But that's also why, like, when you're just starting out, if you have less than 100 monthly listeners on Spotify, if you don't have any songs that have over 1,000 streams, to me, your money, unless you really, really, really in your heart think that it's going to be a hit, and if you have a marketing plan behind that song, you really should just lease it and save the money and then put more of that money towards building an audience. But yes, but when you do get to a higher level, even where you're at right now, or even when you are like a bigger independent artist, who's making a lot of money from touring or any other way, that's when I think it would be smarter for someone to really focus on exclusives, just for that one reason right there, because that's the perfect example. If someone uses someone else's beat and then they don't own the rights to it, someone else can just buy it right there and then start claiming the rights to that piece of music because now they own it.
And that goes to a good reason for your point, you know, not necessarily liking or wanting to give exclusive rights to a beat that has already been sold to somebody else through lease.
Exactly. That's why unless they either don't care about it or they want to pay a lot of money, well, for both. Unless they just really don't care that someone else has it, and if they have a big enough budget for it, I typically don't let people buy an exclusive beat that's already been leased. So like all the beats on my website, I really just focus on just leasing those out, and then if someone wants something exclusive, then I'll make something from scratch. Yeah. I'd much rather do that, especially because even if someone else didn't lease the beat, all my beats are available to download for free because of like what we said, the artist doesn't always want to buy the beat first. The artist should be able to download it, try it out, record over it, and then if they decide that they like the beat, then buy it. That's why you can download all my beats for free on my website right now. So even in that case, someone could have just downloaded the beat for free and not realize that they need to lease it before they put it out. And then it wouldn't be that hard to take it down, but it's still, I mean, that's still just more of a hassle.
It's still work, yeah.
So basically, whether you are an artist or a producer, keep in mind of what makes sense for you in the short term, long term, what's fair for you as a producer or an artist. In terms of what you should do as an artist, when you are at the stage where you're ready to start buying beats, just try to figure out for yourself what's more important. Being able to have high quality production and then maybe being able to use your budget on other things in addition, like videos, marketing, photo shoots, even just putting on a really dope show. Or do you value ownership a bit more and maybe you want to sacrifice marketing or being able to put on an above average show or having like a live band when you perform? It really all does depend on your own specific budget. You shouldn't really, I mean, I have my own opinions on it, but you shouldn't let anyone really tell you what you want to do with your own money. I'll give suggestions, of course, just because I don't know everything, but I study this stuff a lot, so I have my own opinions about it. But I mean, yeah.
Well, and not to keep it going for too long, but there's one last topic that I guess branch of this tree that we're on that I think is really important. That's no longer really, it's thought about, I think subconsciously, but people, I feel like there's this silent, what is it called? Not loyalty code, but a code of ethics. What is it called when it's like we're gonna use this rule? You know, like when we're not gonna lie to each
rules?
Yeah, it's like the loyalty rule, but basically this unsaid code, you know, because the easiest thing that someone can do, and I've seen this on BeatStars. I've seen, and it's not like, you know, two separate accounts promoting the same, you know, creating multiple accounts and hoping that one gets. I've seen people buy people's beats and put them back up on BeatStars and sell them as if it's their beats. You know, plagiarism. So when we talk about ownership, and this is a bit deeper into ownership, one of the pros with working with artists one-on-one is that even if your beats were to be found on someone else's record, you know, I only worked with this artist. I sent this to this artist. That's my beat. You know, like, you know where your point of contact was. It's really easy nowadays for people's work to be mishandled and resold and, you know, chopped and screwed in different ways, shapes, and forms. That's one of the drawbacks that I think about to releasing music or like beats and music being so accessible to people, because there's no longer that exclusivity when we talk about exclusive rights, you know. I mean, imagine someone having the track outs to Billie Jean. You know what I mean?
You know what I do with that?
you know what I'm saying? But that is no longer, it's not as prized of a possession, first off, because nowadays beats are relatively easy to recreate because they're very simple nowadays. But also, you know, nobody else has them besides Quincy, probably locked away in some cellar out in Beverly Hills or some crap. Or
no, they're buried on the ground.
Yeah,
no one's touched
They're in Neverland.
He burned them.
They died with Michael. They're with Michael. No. But you know what I'm saying? Like nobody is touching those. Nobody's pulling those out of the gutter and like, oh yeah, let me put these on BeatStars. So that's another topic in terms of exclusivity.
Yeah, that's a really good one. All right, we beat that one to the nail.
Dead horse.
So, like I mentioned before, you are an artist. You have the ability to make your own beats, and you do make a lot of your own beats. But you work with other producers, whether it's in person or whether it's producers who you bought beats from online. So, especially as an artist who can make his own beats, what gravitates you to wanting to work with a producer?
A good master. Yo, dude, some of these, honestly, bro, not even gonna. A good master is like night and day. The beat that I'm thinking of could be a better beat, but if that master isn't right, the mix and master isn't right, and I really hone in on the master because mastering is so important. You know, man, like that really changes the game for me. On God, like it was kind of a joke, but so a good master, honestly, a good master before a good mix. Honestly, like oddly enough, that's a really tough conversation. Master or mix, but I think, okay, I'm not gonna get on a tangent about that, but I do think master because listeners, what I have noticed is that unless you're some type of, in music or you're naturally inclined to music, most relative music listeners are not gonna tell great mixes. As long as you can hear the vocals and you can hear, a bit of the bass and the drums, like most regular listeners are gonna be moving, they're gonna do well. So definitely a master, because if it's not loud enough, it's not gonna feel like the other music, because that's what listeners are looking for. They're not looking for the most fire guitar line or the craziest vocal runs. People like that, but they're looking for that feeling.
Yeah.
And loudness, that's a whole other thing, the loudness war within music. But loudness, I'm big on dynamic, but I also am loud dynamics. Then originality. One thing that I run into a lot is hearing a lot of the same samples on BeatStars, cut up in different ways. And if you cut it up in different ways, that's cool, but I want to hear that one, indie pop rock song from 1990 be cut up and used, and like I want to run over that, you know what I mean? Like that's what I think made these awesome samplers of our time, like the Kanyes, the Pharrells, the Timbalands, and so on and so forth. They like their music is so fire because when you hear like the way he was cut, those samples are like, it's so unique, and he did something beautiful with it. So a good master, originality, and honestly, that's about it. A good master and originality. That's it for me, man. Yeah. That
is a really good answer, just because even with someone especially like you who you have the ability to make your own stuff, to be honest, a lot of artists can make their own beats as well, and it is moving more into that wave. So as a producer, you need to understand what it is that makes an artist want to work with you or purchase your beat. Just because, especially as a producer, we can be in our own heads and think our stuff is the greatest stuff in the world. I think we're the best producer in the world. But if we're not, even if the beats are fire to us, if your goal is to work with artists or to sell beats with artists, you need to know why they want to work with you, or why they buy certain beats and why they like certain beats and why they don't like other types of beats.
Yeah.
Especially since, like we mentioned, that beats are super easy to make nowadays, and the artist can very easily do what we do, which is go and splice, find a really fire loop, throw some drums on it, and call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a producer, you should want to know how to go above and beyond and figure out what it is exactly that artists like about a certain producer that makes them want to work with them. Yeah. Here's an interesting topic, because you did touch on this a little bit, and I wanted to touch on this as well, just because you also do make your own beats. How do you feel, more specifically as an artist, do you and the other artists care when you hear a producer use a loop? If you weren't a producer yourself, so take the producer hat off completely. If you weren't a producer yourself and you were listening to someone's beat and they used a loop that they got from Splice or just from any other really popular sample or loop pack online, do you as an artist care if a producer uses a loop in their beat?
As me as an artist?
Purely as an artist, not someone who also makes beats, just purely as an artist. You're looking for dope production to rap or sing over.
Not as much. I'm not gonna say as much. If I'm just thinking about it from an artist, I would say not as much, because what I will say, though this did happen to me, so this happened to me so much. So this Gillette commercial that used actually the same sample that I got, or the same loop that I got from Splice. It was from my song High. And I was like, man, you know, like, but it was pitched differently, and the drums were different, of course. You know, and so as an artist, though I did produce that track, as an artist, I had mixed feelings about it. At first I was like, oh, that must mean that, you know, I had the right idea in mind, you know, that like a lot of people seem to have liked that sound too. But then a part of me felt like, you know, if I were to hear it, because I think that's what the question kind of comes down to, like the loops, like it's fine to use a loop. As most things are loops, but they're just not original loops, right? So that question of, you know, I don't mind, but what I do like to do is somehow change it to make it unique to the song.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to leave it just as it is, or it will appear in someone else's record. And people are like, yeah, I'll get that message on Instagram. Hey, this sounds like your song. Did they like steal from you? Like people that don't understand?
Exactly.
Like, no, we just stole from each other. Actually, this is mutual. It's totally mutual. Don't worry about it. No, but like, you know, that situation can get a bit tough as an artist. It's like, man, like the idea of what will people think does come into your mind as an artist, but it's not too big. It's not that big of a deal. It'll happen rarely. Your music, let's look at it as a blessing. If you have enough people that hear the same things, that hear your music, and that hear your music somewhere else, that must mean that, or something from your music somewhere else, that at least means that you have somebody listening to your music.
Yeah.
And, you know, they care enough to be like, hey, you know, but besides that, I don't think it's too big of a deal. But I would much rather have an original sound that was created by the producer I'm working with myself, or so on and so on.
Gotcha. So for me personally, I use loops all the time. I love using loops because I work full time in addition to doing production.
Yeah.
So I don't always have time to make a beat, or sometimes maybe I'm tired and I need to make beats just to keep that muscle going, but maybe I just don't feel super creative, so I just need something really quick to inspire me to make something dope. So as a producer, using loops is super helpful, and I don't mind when other producers use them either. Now the thing is, the average listener does not know what splice is. The average listener does not know what a sample pack is, what a loop is. They don't care royalty free, master, like that's all. That's stuff that producers care about.
Yeah.
The average listener does not care, which is why I don't have a problem with people using loops. On just like in terms of just making creative music, I prefer it if they manipulate the loop in some way, of course. Especially with this is a whole other rabbit hole again too, but like YouTube content ID. But in terms of just specifically making, yeah, that's the headache.
What is that? What's that called? Intellectual
property.
Yeah.
To like briefly go over that, I'm not gonna get into a huge tangent on this, but like when you got a lot of people using one loop and they don't manipulate it at all, whoever registered it with that YouTube content ID first is going to claim a whole bunch of people's stuff, and they don't own the rights to it. Yeah. Which is a whole other thing in itself. But anyways, so the average music listener does not care if you use the loop. All they really care about is the song good? Does it convey an emotion that they can relate to? Does it sound good, as in like the mixing and mastering? That's really what they care about. They don't care if you use the same loop as someone else, you know? Yeah. And even then when you are using loops, so a long time ago when I like first found Splice, they gave me like 100 free credits, so I downloaded 100 different loops. There was one loop that I used for one of my beats that a few people released, and I don't think any of the songs really turned into anything major. If you're a fan of Christian rap, there's a rapper named The Truth who put out a song, I don't remember how long ago, it might have been like 2018 or 2019. He used the same loop that I used. And actually, I didn't mind. I thought it was cool because our beats sounded completely different. I made more of like a Juice WRLD type beat, a Juice WRLD style track where it was like guitars playing and then I had like trap drums playing at the same time. The Truth had the exact same loop. We pitched our loops differently, but then the producer of that track, their drums were completely different. The arranging was completely different. It sounded like two completely different songs. And then I did hear another, I don't remember his name, but someone else sent me another artist who used that same loop. They also did more of like a Juice WRLD style track, but they still sounded completely different, you know? So even when we're using the same loops or the same samples, you can still make your song sound completely different. It just depends on how you manipulate the loop itself and then how you build your other elements around it. Yeah. Which I mean, I think is cool. I mean, it is important to know if artists care about that type of stuff too, just because I've seen producers debate whether if artists do care about it or not, but they debate about that with other producers. So that's, what do they know?
And what I will add is that, so I am not just a artist. I started off as a musician, you know, right? Like, so when I'm with, especially when I'm with Lorenzo, I want to create.
Right.
You know, I want us to create everything. And that could be my producer hat that is on, but me being a musician, even before being an artist that is Buto and playing the piano and learning guitar and things like that, I know that I can create them, so it's like, why not? Like, let's make this so unique. Like, nobody has this in the world, you know, and that is something near and dear to my heart when, you know, no one's ever gonna create the same exact thing.
Right.
Never in the world. It's never gonna happen. It could be as close as watermelons, but I don't even know what that means. But you just won't, and that's the beauty of it.
Right.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone over this, but let's really focus in on this. How do you, as an artist, feel about paying producers for their beats?
I feel totally fine about it. It's deserved, and I think that now, you know, like, especially if you're just buying it, you don't know the person, and you did no collaboration whatsoever.
Right.
Now, you know, okay, so back to the reference we used earlier, you know, there's something I was gonna add. If someone doesn't want to get your beat and it's for free, they're like, I don't want to pay you, producer, Mr. Person that is basically writing half of my song. They don't want to pay you. You definitely have the right to either say no, or you could say, all right, I want 50% of everything you make off of this song, because that's your right as a writer, basically as a creator within that song and writing process. So if they don't want to pay you, it's like, I'm gonna get paid somehow. And that's something that I might even, when talking about the Drakes or whoever that might come through and be like, I want to use your beat, you know, that's something that I would, you know, definitely get into. And this is what they would do sometimes. They would probably be like, they might not want you on the royalties that much. So they might be like, hey, 20,000, no royalties at all. Because what he's gonna make would probably be 100,000 off the song alone, you know, and he gives you a $20,000 cut, and that could be great for you right now, you know, because that's quicker. You could get maybe more of what you need to create more awesome beats, and the next one you'll get royalties on, you know. So of course, you know, everyone knows about royalties in the long term.
Not everyone does.
Yeah. Not everyone. You're right. But you know, more people are learning about the long-term benefits of royalties and taking that long-term money. But I definitely think they should be paid for. But now, if I'm working with a producer and I'm not just saying, ooh, I like that, you know, like, but I'm like, you know, I might make some chords, and then like, I keep going back to Spuddies, but how we created Spuddies, like, I was usually making the chords, then your drums were fire, you know, like, I think there it's like, it's a bit easier to just straight up go like, okay, we created this together, like, and shake hands on it in terms of like money and things like that. So if you're working with the producer and you're really producing with them, or you come with the song and you're playing the guitar, that's a whole different thing.
You started jumping on to what the next question was going to be. So how do you feel about producers wanting whether you lease the beat or if you buy it exclusively, how do you feel about the producer getting royalties from it? There are, like, oftentimes by default, what some people consider standard, even though there's no real standard, it's all about negotiating. What some people consider standard in terms of keeping it really simple, one artist, one producer, splitting the publishing 50-50. Do you feel that's fair as an artist? Or do you think that the split should be different, whether it's in favor of the producer or the artist? Or do you think that the artist should get all the royalties, producers shouldn't get any of them? What is your opinion on this as artist, songwriter, producer?
I'll put my producer hat on for this one. If I was the producer, I haven't produced a track for anyone. I've usually only done it for myself. If I was, I'll say what I would want, and then what, as an artist, what I want, then what I think would be fair. As the producer, I'm in a studio with an artist. I guess even to give more context. Producer as in, if they buy my beat or something, or like...
So, I mean, in the context of, let's say, just to make this really simple, let's say the producer, whether you bought the beat online or if they just made it in the studio with you, to keep it simple, let's say the artist didn't touch the beat at all. Let's say the producer made 100% of the beat, even if they used a loop or whatever. Let's say they made the beat 100% and didn't touch anything else. The artist didn't touch the beat, he just made the lyrics and then performed it. So in that specific situation, and we can get into more nuance as well, but in this specific situation, just to make it simple.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of ways songs are split anyway, right? Even past the artist producer, which does get crazy, especially if you're adding writers and things. But you already gave the example, so we'll keep it simple. I might say, tough, because the making of a song, right? What I would say, I might lean towards, if I still have my producer hat on, and I'm recognizing that, yes, I did create this beat, but I think the artist is doing two things. They're writing it, and then they're delivering the record. I think the writing and delivery are definitely two separate things, right? Because there are writers that don't write the song and, you know, Justin Bieber will deliver them, or Drake or whoever, you know, Mariah Carey, whatever, they deliver them. And that's a whole different cut too. I would say producer, this might upset some people, but producer 40 and then 60. That's how I would split it in terms of royalties, right? Now, let's say I think the writer should get more than the deliverer.
Okay.
You know, of the lyrics. So I would say like, if this is 40, I would say 35 or 40 as well.
Well, let's say for this example in particular, it's only two people, just to make it really easy.
Yeah. So 40, 60. 40, 60. And artist-wise, if I was the artist, what would I say? What do I think the producer? I would keep it the same as an artist. But I think what's fair would be like a more like a 45-55 split. It gets a bit closer when I'm trying to think of like in total fairness, because the nuances are tough to not think about. Yeah. Depending on what type of song is it. Is it a song with only 4 tracks? You know, like is it just a 808? You know, a hi-hat and a kick with a loop on top of it? Is it just that, or is it, you know, is it the Billie Jean? Right. You know, I think he might deserve some. I think he might deserve that 50-50 split. You know what I mean? So yeah, to keep it simple in that example, I would say 40-60.
Okay, that's interesting. This is why it's important to negotiate with artists, because producers, we can be prideful and we want everything. We want people to pay us $1,000 plus for an exclusive, and then we also would want to split it 50-50. And I mean, for some people, that's maybe they may not think it's fair, or maybe if you are the type of producer who it is a 4-track beat, it's just loop, 808, hi-hat, snare, call it a day. Yeah. Like, so I mean, there really is just a lot of nuance. Even simple examples like that, there is a lot of nuance to it. So in general, the way royalties work is there's common practice, but there's no like law that says you need to get this specific amount of the percentage of the song. But I do believe that everyone who contributes to the song, whether it is a songwriter or a producer, they should receive some type of royalty for it. And it has to be fairly divided. So for example, in that type of situation where it's only one artist, one producer, negotiate with it, but honestly, it could be fair either way. Like, I can see why some people would say just split it 50-50, just because it's 2 halves of the song essentially. It's the beats are 1 half, vocals are 1 half. Could you have one without the other? Sure, but you two together made that hit. Yeah. Some artists I've seen say, okay, you know what? That's not fair, because as the artist, I'm the face of the song. I'm the one who's promoting it. I'm the one who's performing it every night. So why am I splitting that 50-50? You know, I will give you your royalties, but 60-40 makes more sense. And then maybe it could be the other way around. Like, let's say, because nowadays, producers are becoming artists in the sense of when you think of people like when you think of people like Decap, when you think of people like Eldre, when you think of people like Stolen Drums, Murder Beats. Okay, we'll go more. No, that's cool. No, yeah, people like Murder Beats or Metro. I was just going on off of just some people I listen to who are on the independent side, but people like Illmind. So producers like them, they have a name for themselves. Let's say they're working with another artist who maybe isn't as big as them. Since they have a bigger name and since they have a more established brand, even they could say, you know what? Okay, in this situation, I'm giving you clout because my name is bigger. Yeah. So maybe in that situation, maybe it could be 60-40 for the producer. I mean, which is why, like, the point really is just to discuss.
The nuances will really, we could also even talk about, because a lot of times when splitting writing, because all of it's really, everyone is usually put down as a writer for the song.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? Everyone is usually put down as some type of songwriter. So you could also, people try and split it based on how much did someone write. If you only gave me a bar, you don't deserve 25% of, and I wrote everything else. Yeah. Also, some songs are a bit more like beat led, where like there could be a lot of space in the song. You know, shoot, I don't even want to talk about the splits that would come with the band. You know, like
that's how bands break up.
Exactly. You know, so the nuances are really important. So, like you said, the point is to negotiate.
Yes. Yeah. And also, I mean, even if you are one of those producers who just always think that you deserve 50%. I mean, maybe that is the case depending on your own self, your own situation. But no, like if you care about the artist, if you care about establishing good relationships that will give you even, honestly, potentially even more long-term money than the royalty split, depending on, you know, how big the song's doing anyways, always be open to negotiate and also just be fairly compensated, because there have been situations where I would have to beg an artist essentially to give me my royalty split. Like even if it's like something like, if we're just debating numbers, like there have been certain situations where I've been talking to artists and they're like, oh yeah, but I mean, I bought it exclusively, so that means you don't get any royalties. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. I mean, even if you want to give me, I'll take a smaller percentage than what I'm comfortable with, but I just want a percentage of it, because it's still, whether you bought it exclusively or not, I made that. I deserve to be fairly compensated for it. Even if you are paying up front for it, I still contributed to the songwriting, so I still deserve, even if it's not 50%, I'm still taking some of that publishing. That's how I personally roll. So I do think that, I mean, definitely be open to debate, but also as a producer, don't let people finesse you. Don't make it too much of a stressful thing, because if you're a producer who's just starting out, and if you're working with another artist who's just starting out, and they, let's say they don't really have that many streams on Spotify and stuff anyways. I mean, honestly, it's dumb debating about it, because that's not going to be where you're making the majority of your money anyways. If you're like 500 monthly listeners on Spotify, you're not getting any radio airplay. I mean, don't argue with this type of stuff. I mean, get a percentage, but like, dog, you're gonna get like 40 cents. Like, chill, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time,
Worry about making it first.
yes. No, honestly, yes. But I mean, at the same time, like everyone, artists and producers, they both need to be fairly compensated for their work. So don't finesse the artist and try to get more royalties or more money than what you really deserve. But then also like get what you deserve as well.
That's a conversation to be had too, like, you know, because that could have that what I just said could have a lot of poison to it, because, you know, a lot of people be like, well, but you want to get your business right too. So definitely have your business right. But I mean, if there is no business to have right,
no, it is exactly that. Oh no, it's 100% that.
You know,
like my personal opinion. I've heard Illmind talk about this too, so I'm gonna borrow some of his opinions and words and stuff as well. But if you're just starting out, you don't really have too many hits under your belt, the most important thing, honestly, is get the music out there, because you can debate about royalties or exclusive rights or getting an upfront fee or leasing or what. You can debate about that stuff all day. If the music is not out, you get nothing. You get nothing. It doesn't matter. So discuss the stuff and make sure everyone, not just you as the producer, make sure the artist is also getting fairly compensated. Make sure everyone's comfortable with the business that you're doing, the ownership or whatever. Make sure everyone's comfortable.
Be fair, do good business.
Yes. Be fair, do good business, and do what we're doing right now. Have conversations. It'll get you so much further than what you think. Okay, here's an interesting question. So, when you're working in the studio with another producer, do you feel that's important, one, for the artist to understand anything about production, whether it's just really basic stuff? And also, do you think it's important for a producer to understand some of like the terminology of working with a vocalist? Meaning, like, more specifically, when a producer's working with an artist, you think it would be helpful for the artist to understand a bit about production, whether it's about mixing techniques or whether it's certain sounds or like the process of producing? Do you think it would help them be more efficient in the studio? And also the other way around with the producer, do you think they should know, basically what I'm trying to say is, should producers know how artists work and should artists know how producers work? Do you think that would make things feel more efficient in the studio, or do you think that it's okay with them kind of just being in their own two worlds and then combining together?
Yes! Yes! Specifically, okay, what you're saying is, okay, this is what I would say. Know the language. Know the language. You don't have to know what the heck they're doing, but know the language, right? Because, you know, and it's different. We were in a blessed situation, bro, because we both didn't know what the heck we were doing.
Facts.
There was no old head that was like, oh my god, like he can't even tell me that he wants like a different type of EQ in the vocals, or like he keeps saying he wants more space but he's trying to say reverb, or like, you know what I mean, like he keeps using echo for delay, you know, like yeah, definitely know the language, please, because on both ends. So artist hat, I love it when the producer knows the language of like a lot of times when you're working with a producer that like you also like you trust, you'll try and hit a note as an artist or spit a bar or whatever, and the producer be like, no, like I need it like this. And if the producer knows, like, you know, add a bit more like rasp to your voice, or like don't say, you know, that high part, like falsetto. Like, you know, saying the word falsetto, or like there's also singer terminology. It's called like the flip, when your chest voice flipping into head voice.
Yeah.
So like it's like, oh no, like when you flip, like it gets a little bit flat. Knowing the difference between sharp and flat, you know what I mean? As a producer, I love that, because if I trust you enough to tell me those things, and when our compatibility is there, that'll help me, you know, get out of your studio faster. No, but it'll help me get what I need to get done faster, and we'll have a much better workflow. Producer hat. Heck yes! I think more so as a producer, because, you know, in the music industry, it's kind of looked at, oh, there's a spider there. In the music industry, it's kind of looked at to be the producers, and especially the engineers. I've never treated any engineer like this, but like a lot of artists, especially if they have big heads and they're big, they treat their producers or engineers like trash.
Yeah.
They can be really mean to them, and no, I want it like this, but they're not saying anything. You know, they'll say, no, I need my vocals to be like poke like this. Like I need them to be like over here. Like you mean pan them to the right, maybe? Like just a little bit of language would really help workflow within the studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I asked that question before on previous interviews, and then it also hit me that, you know what, it also is important for producers to understand terminology that an artist would use. So a really good example of this on where I'm falling short and where I need to step my game up is when I first was really getting into music. Honestly, I did not envision myself working with singers. Not because I didn't like them. I mostly listened to rap. Well, now I do listen to more stuff that has singing in it. But I honestly, growing up, I mostly listened to rap. So I understood cadences, I understood rap flows. I have a background as a musician, so I can tell when things are sharp or flat. But when it comes to me working with singers, I don't know the terminology that well. Like I know what a falsetto is. I don't always know the difference between a chest voice and a head voice. So when I'm working with a singer and they're asking me how they can improve their take, I don't always know the best way to describe it other than the energy of it and if it was sharp or flat. So if I understood the terminology of singing better than I do now, we could work a lot more efficiently and quicker in the studio, because then I can be like, oh yeah, do this. Or we could be even more creative, because then I can say, you know what, okay, you're singing it like this, do it like this, or something like that, and then it'll be a lot more interesting. That's someone I need to do my homework on and study singing specifically. Because even with rap, there are certain techniques and stuff, but even like now that I'm working with more singers than I was before, that's definitely an area as a producer where I can go in. And I know a lot of other producers who may be working with artists, maybe haven't worked with artists in the studio, maybe they want to. If you're a producer who wants to work with artists, maybe you haven't gotten the chance to yet, but if you want to work with artists hands-on, highly recommend that you do your homework and then you learn some of this terminology, whether it's training your ear to know when something's sharp or flat, or just learning basic terminology like runs or chest voice and head voice, or just different things like that. Vibrato. For me personally, I value being able to work, not rushing, but quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big workflow thing right there. If both the artist and producer can understand each other and speak the same language, I mean, even if you don't, you can still make some really dope art together. But if you do, you can run through things so much quicker.
Yeah. And also, I think producers, so we're a bit spoiled, because I recognize we're having this conversation, but I know a lot of producers, they didn't start out as musicians.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another distinction that I would like describe as like also in terms of like a beat maker, is more so someone that is more so drums oriented, because I think something that would be really strong for if you want to become a better producer, learn your keys. Yes. Learn not the keys as in the piano, but like the keys that you're, because what's kind of killing me nowadays, I'm seeing, and it's not bad, it's progress and it's technology and it's innovation, but now things are finding the key for us.
Yeah.
We don't even have to find the key to anything that we look for. And you know, I have, you know, because when buying studio equipment and VSTs and things like that, plugins, you know, they'll come with these updated things where it finds the key for you. I still pluck it out on the piano, because that is a talent, not a talent, that's a skill that when you're not in that studio space, you might need to take it out. You might need to be able to be like, you might be working with someone, you know, somewhere. Yeah. And you could sometimes pull out a guitar. It's a bit hard on the guitar, but definitely if a piano's around, and you figure out, the only sharps in this are F sharp and C sharp. So we're in the key of D right now. you know, and that's very helpful if you're working one-on-one with an artist, because it'll help your workflow too.
Oh no, 100%. So now, okay, that's a good point. So when I'm working on beats, I mean, even when I'm engineering too, I always like finding the key of the beat or the song that I'm working on. So I do have that plugin, Auto Key from Antares, that finds the key for you. So that's fire. However, since I did grow up as a musician, I know how to find the key. I can find it myself. The only difference is that Auto Key, it works faster. And like I said, I'm all about being able to work as fast as possible. Now, if I'm in a situation where I'm working at someone else's studio and they don't have that software, I need to know how to do this stuff by myself. Even in terms of making melodies or making loops, I'm definitely stronger at doing drum patterns than I am with chord progressions and melodies, which is why I'm more so of a loop-based and sample-based producer. But at the same time, especially when after the pandemic is over and when I'll feel more comfortable to work with a larger amount of artists in person, I definitely want to use my time now to also improve my chord progression game and my melody game, just because if I'm working at someone else's studio and they want me to make something on the spot, I can make a fire drum loop. I know for sure I could do that. Then depending on how I'm feeling that day, honestly, it's gonna be hit or miss with the chords and melodies. Basically, this is relative, but this is kind of a different point as well. The more skills that you know and have, and just the more knowledge you have in general, the better. The more valuable you'll be too.
Yeah.
I'll say this out of my own opinion, and then you can agree or disagree. I think as a producer, the more skills and the more knowledge you have, the more valuable you are, and then the more other people, whether it's artists or even other producers, will want to work with you. Because if you only can use loops and can put some fire drums on it, I mean, that's fire. You can still make some dope music that way, but you won't be as valuable as someone who knows how to do vocal production. What will make you even more valuable is knowing how to do good mixes. What will make you more valuable is knowing how to vocal coach and knowing when to say, hey, that take was sharp. Hey, that take was flat. Hey, that take was offbeat. Do this to correct it. Even making beats. Now, using loops is 100% fine. I love it. I encourage other people to use loops. If you solely rely on loops, you're not as valuable as someone who can play a chord progression, because then you're only a slave to that loop. So then if an artist says, hey, you know what, I want this song to start out sad and then turn happy, what's going to be easier, finding two different loops or creating just two different chord progressions within the same song? You could do both. Maybe you could make things flow a bit better if you just knew how to do this stuff from scratch. Even on that end, if you're working with an artist who's more into sample-based stuff, the more knowledge you have of being able to manipulate a loop or a sample, then the better in that case too. To me, if you can stack up as much skill as possible and make yourself as valuable as possible, that'll make more artists want to work with you. And what do you think about that?
I 100% agree, man. You know, I remember the amount of times I was still growing on the guitar, and still am, and I'd want a certain line, and I'd be like, Lorenzo, could you do this line? He'd be like, yeah, I got it, and he'd murder it, you know, because he's a better guitarist.
I stopped practicing. I'm trash at guitar now.
Nah, he can still rip. But you know, like, so definitely, it'll definitely help the artist too. And imagine, you know, those times when the artist will just have a song in their head. The artist can't play any music. And I think what we're getting into is the difference between, you know, a beat maker and a producer.
That's exactly what this is.
You know, because if he walks in like, I get so lost in you, and it's like, da, 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 da. You're gonna have to be like, dun, 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 dun. And you start figuring out the chords, and that's how you know, a song comes in. So there's so many instances where, you know, knowing those nuances of music, not to how to put tracks together, but to, you know, create a song. Yeah, it's very important as a producer.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
We're starting to wrap up. Here's one of the last questions. What do you wish you had as an artist to make your job as an artist either quicker, easier, more efficient, or more pleasurable?
That's a great question. Probably a manager, or a manager. Yeah, for me specifically as an artist, I'll say a manager, because I would knock out a lot of the hubbub that, you know, you might run into on a given day as an artist. And I think it's good for artists to have someone that will speak for them. Be able to speak for them. I think, of course, an artist should be able to speak and express what he wants himself. But when really getting into the philosophy, truly, you know, the philosophy of an artist, there's an image and that one might need to uphold, and it's much easier to say, you know, to that person that wants a feature, talk to my manager, and the manager says, $500 for this feature, rather than coming from the artist, and the artist be like, oh yeah, Buto tried to charge me $500 for a feature, who does he think he is? So yeah, you know, a manager would be great. I know that's like off topic from like what we're talking about producing.
No, that actually is perfectly on topic.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask is because when it comes with producers working with artists, I feel like a lot of producers are like, what can the artist give me? It should be a mutual benefiting relationship. So that's why when I'm finding new artists to work with, I don't just straight out the gate ask them to buy my beats.
Yeah.
I have an actual conversation with them, and I want to know what's a gap in their workflow that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
Because for some people, it may just be beats.
Yeah.
And when I ask that question to some people, they just say, you know what, I actually just need a fire producer. Or I just need a fire mixer. Which, I mean, even on that, not all producers know how to mix. But maybe there's a gap that the artist has that you can fill, even if it's not specifically related to beats. So like I just said, not only do I produce, I also mix.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the #1 best mixer in the world, but I know how to make a really good mix that people sonically will say sounds good.
Yeah.
So if someone needs specifically mixing, maybe they're straight on beats.
Your mixes got lit, bro. Your
Thank
mixes
you.
got lit. And I say got only because I've been with you, been hearing your mixes for so long. They got really good, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's a skill that I have that I can also offer. All the videos that are on my channel, other than like a handful of the music videos, I edit them. So when I start getting really nice at video editing, if someone's like, you know what, I actually need a video editor. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not the best video editor in the world, but I definitely can make your stuff look pretty crisp. So that could be another skill. The real important thing with that as a producer is talk to artists. It all revolves around just talking to artists and having conversations with them like we're having right now. That's why I started this series, to show what it looks like for a producer to have a conversation with an artist. It's not all about just selling your beats to them and getting them to buy. If you're the type of producer who, on the first message, you just go to someone and say, buy my beats, which a lot of people do. I'm sure there are at least 100 of you watching this right now who have done that before. So when I first started out, I would do stuff like that before I learned, and that's okay, because you gotta learn. If you're just the type of producer who goes to the artist, says buy my beats, and you spam their email with 10 beats, you're not going to win long term. But if you are the type of producer who genuinely cares about the artist, and wants to benefit them as much, if not more, than they're benefiting you, then that's really what's going to give you that longevity. So yeah, so long story short, have these types of conversations with artists, whether it's about anything we talked about, whether it's how do you feel about leasing beats? How do you feel about exclusives?
Yeah.
Do you care if I use a loop or not? What royalty percentage are you comfortable with? What are gaps in your career or workflow that need to be filled? Even if you're not the person who can fill that gap. If someone comes up to me right now, specifically if an artist from the Northern Virginia area comes up to me right now, it's like, hey, you know what? I need a videographer. I know a couple of videographers that I can refer them to. So did I directly get a beat sale from that? No. But I was able to point them in the direction of someone who can help them out with their career. And then maybe later down the line, they remember, oh, you know what? El Marquis, he just connected me with this videographer. You know what? Let me go check out his website. Oh, wow, he's got a fire beat. Let me buy the lease for this. Oh, this one's really fire. This could blow up. I'm gonna buy the exclusive. You never know, because you planted that seed. Even if the sale just didn't come in immediately, you still planted that seed, you built that relationship, and then later down the line, that could turn into a beat sale. Maybe even better, later down the line, your relationship grows and you two collaborate on something even deeper than that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, what I want everyone to take away from this is
Not even start a relationship together.
Mega pause, super pause,
Mega pause.
For real though, yes, it really is all about, not like that, but it really is all about building good working relationships and friendships with each other. This guy right here.
Oh yeah, no, he's 100% right though. I'm just saying. That's funny.
Okay, so that just pretty much wrapped up all the producer-related topics for this video. Buto, thank you for coming on the show. First of all, what are you currently working on?
I got an EP coming out on May 7th. I don't know when this will be released, might be before or after, but either way, check it out. It's gonna be on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube. Got some music videos coming. So I got the EP coming out May 7th and an album coming out June 4th. Buto, everywhere.
He also just recently put out 2 singles. I produced one of them. Check out them both.
Yeah.
Buy them, stream them, share them with your friend, make a TikTok to him, do all that type of stuff.
Amen. Make a TikTok to him.
Please.
Yeah,
make me laugh. I just started getting on TikTok about a month ago.
Yo,
so
funniest social media out right now.
it is. I can't.
Yeah, it is.
And where can people find your music, and where can people find you on social media?
Buto Music for social media, Buto Music, Buto Music, and it's boo-2. Think of when a ghost scares you, boo, and then the number 2, music, and so that's for everywhere. But I'm mainly on Instagram, TikTok, And then music-wise, Buto everywhere. I actually just checked the other day. I have 55 songs out.
That's insane.
Everywhere. Yeah, I have 55 songs out, and I've been releasing since 2016. And that's not even all my songs. That's just the songs that are on all the platforms. Like
no, because you were releasing stuff back in like 2015, I think, back in our SoundCloud days.
No, it was 2016. It was the summer of 2016. I released "Where You Are." That was the first song we ever did. Yeah. It was
wow, that was I thought that was earlier than that.
No, yeah. It was summer 2016, and I released from where I was like releasing a song a week.
And when did Spuddies come out?
Spuddies came out in 2017.
I really thought that came out in 2016. That's wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows you how long we've been working together.
Yeah, it's been a second, man. We've been at it for a second, and it's just now really coming together. I feel like for me and you, Renz, the different lanes that we're in. So interesting, like the things that have occurred in the past, but it's all working out.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope that you got something really dope out of this. I put all of Buto's links in the description below. All the links to his social media, Spotify, Apple Music, and I really hope that you got something good out of this. So,
awesome.
Thank you all for tuning in. My name is El Marquis of El Marquis Productions.
Buto from saying that. Buto from Vamos Arriba Productions.
Hey.
And it was great being with you guys.
Amen. All right, well, everyone, God bless.
Blessings.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you've seen today, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss when I upload another video or interview like this. And big thank you to Buto for coming through and doing this interview. Make sure you go down in the description below and check out all of his music and follow him on social media. At the time that I'm filming this part of the video, it is June, so now his album Undeniable is officially out and it's super fire. And shameless plug, a few months ago he actually did release a song that I produced called In My Head, so definitely be sure to check that out too. That's a super hard banger. Also be sure to visit my website elmarquisproductions.com, where you'll be able to check out my music, my beats, my sample kits, my merchandise, and my mixing, mastering, and consulting services. Now go down in the comment section below and let me know what are some questions that producers need to ask artists, and what are some things that both producers and artists can do that will improve our working relationships together. My name is El Marquis Productions. God bless.
You gon' remember the time when we sped through red lights. Everything was off-white, but it all felt right.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Awesome. That was lit.
Amen.
That was nice. How long was that, dude?
An hour and 41 minutes before the editing.